Hello friends, welcome again to my YouTube channel where I share some great ideas. A while back I watched an online demonstration with a fellow demonstrating how to make jar lids so they can be put on jars. For example, I believe the one that he was doing was small mouth mason jar, and you can make out of burl and all kinds of different fancy woods. It's a fun little project, and ladies really appreciate it a lot. A friend of mine, I gave him a lid, and he took some soup to some people that were sick, and they were just super excited about the lid. But anyway, I imagine they appreciated the soup too. But anyway, it's quite a fun little project to do, and it doesn't take too long. There's other lids that you can use. This is a large mouth mason lid, and this is the lid that we're going to be dealing with today, because this particular lid is larger than a lot of your woodchuck jaws that you want to use. So I'm showing you some interesting techniques and things that you can use even on other projects where you don't have a chuck that matches it. And of course you can go to other lids too. This is a peanut butter lid that some people brought to us because my wife was ill, and it had meatballs and stuff in it. She had made it, so I'm going to return the jar with a lid that's made to fit the one that came with it there. So, and you can do different designs and stuff on here. This is just a practice one when I was developing this process. And of course, like this one that I showed you, add color and things like that. Those were just made out of plain wood because I was just experimenting. So the smallmouth mason lids I found were no problem because I had equipment to make those. For example, here's a blank, and I had a chuck that the jaws just fit around the outside. So that made a simple thing. Now, and then we do the hole here, but if you don't have a chuck that fits on the outside, what do you do? So I'm going to be demonstrating what you can do for that today, like for example these larger ones here. And then of course if you have a smaller chuck, which a lot of you do have, this one here, once you have the hole done in the bottom part and this edge, you can put it into a chuck that expands into that recess there, and then you just do the top there. That's very simple, but when it comes to the largemouth mason lids, well, I couldn't use these processes here, so I had to develop some other methods to do that, and that's what we're going to be featuring today. So anyway, I'll get a piece of wood prepared here, and then I'll show you the process there. Our first problem with doing the wide mouth mason or other jar lids where we don't have chucks that fit it is how you're going to attach your blank that you want to do. You don't have a chuck that fits on the outside, and what are you going to do? Well, I come up with two ideas. Did both of them, and I'll show you the most simple one that I did first with equipment that you most likely don't have. I don't think almost 99.9% of wood turners don't have this device, and the ones that have it don't want it anyway because they never figured out any good use to it. But I picked up this 4-jaw chuck here when I first started turning because it was cheap, and I thought, oh, that'll work really good. I can hold all kinds of things. Well, it doesn't hold much of anything. And most people that I've seen on the internet told people don't even use it. But anyway, it did work for this. And it's got all 4 jaws are movable. And all you have to do is cut out a piece of wood that within the capability of this chuck that will fit in the jaws. And there's all kinds of rings around the outside, so it's quite easy by adjusting each jaw relative to those rings. You can get it basically on center. So it's just a matter of tightening those down. And once you got it set up, you can just tighten and loosen 2 of them, and it'll take it out. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way here. Wondered why it wasn't getting tight. So we'll just set that on there. Okay, there we got that one done. And some of these are a little bit wonky. Everything seems to turn backwards on some of these chucks. That one chuck I had seems to turn. And if you're careful, that'll hold it quite adequately. And one other thing you need to do too is, I didn't bring my wrench over here, but tighten these off here. I snug those up as well. Loosen them a little bit to move your jaws and then that. But I would, if you find, I don't think too many people have one of those. I would probably use it now that I have it and figured out that's something that's useful for it. So the next way to do this, that you can do it for any size project, is to get your blank of wood. And I've put a line around this prepared cap here. And you have to cut it out bigger. Just cut it out, cut a blank out a little bit bigger. And this is so simple, I don't know if you probably do this all the time, I don't know, but I just was trying to figure out a way to do this, and I come up with this idea. Well, you take another piece of wood, and you can see the line. That line there is for my jar lid. That's the size of a piece of wood I need. And I've got one out here, which is a little bit bigger. And of course, on the outside, I've already lathed it round. And you'll notice, if I get it there a little closer, you'll notice little holes here. Now, what do you think those holes are for? Well, it's quite simple. You cut out your block of wood, that's basically, that's that size, see? It's on there. And then the screws are going to go in from the back side and hold that block of wood around the outside perimeter of it. And then when we do the inside, then we can do the inside for our jar lid, and then we'll use a special chuck thing that I'm going to show you today and how to make that. We can lay the outside of that material. So I'll just go ahead, you just center that on there. I made that a little bigger so there's a little bit more support for the screws there. So I'll screw that on, and yeah, we'll be ready to put it on the lathe and start our hollowing process there. Okay, you can see that I've got that all screwed on there. And I'll mention, which I didn't mention, I could have before there, is before I put the screws in, I set that on there and then put a pilot hole in there for the screw. First time I did this, because they go right near the edge, I noticed some cracking coming out there. So do the little pilot hole for the drill, and then it'll be no problem. But see, now we can turn on this, and our screws are on the outside rather than in through the center where your lid is going to be there. Our first step is to remove the material in the inside for the jar lid. And you could do that just by hand, but I've got these Forester bits. This is one of the larger ones that come in the set. of course, as you can see, it's way too small, but we've got another one that we'll use after this one. So I'll just go ahead and we'll bore this out. I just went to the full depth of the as a gauge. Okay, so now here's a bit that a lot of you probably don't have. I just happen to have it because I was into doing clocks, and this is a 3-inch Forster bit that is used to hog out the back of a clock for the movement. So it makes it fairly fast. But I thought, hey, why not use it? So here she goes. Yeah, that took quite a bit of material out there fairly quickly. I tried doing it in one step with this, but it's a little bit much. So 2 steps, it makes it very easy. Okay, so now we just have to remove the rest of the material there. Now, we could do this by hand here and I think I'll probably do some of it by hand, but I've got another special tool which is going to come up in the next video on how to build it. But since I have it, and we'll use it to enlarge this to the right size. In the demonstration that I watched when they made the smallmouth basins, they had a Forster bit that enlarged it exactly the right size. And so that could be duplicated over and over again. And I looked at the price of those things, and they were like $60, $80. So I thought, well, why can't I make something? So I made this little gizmo here, very easy to make, and I'm going to have the next video will show exactly how that is made. Anyway, I'm just going to cut this to size. You have to adjust it. It's adjustable. So you could actually use this gizmo to do other things like boxes and all sorts of things to different sizes. So anyway, I'll just demonstrate that it actually works and enlarge it to the size of my jar lid. It wasn't that easy. And of course you can do it by hand too, and fit them individually as you make more of them. And we'll have to just clean up the bottom a little bit with the hand tool. Okay, where I had that set, I can, you want it, if you're making it for a jar lid, you just want to make it a snug fit. Now, if I could just tap that in and it would hold without gluing. You can glue if you make it a little bit loose. A little bit of glue helps too, like epoxy or something around the edge. Now, the only other thing that I've got to do here is make the jar lid. If I'm using this one, has this little rolled edge. So we want to relieve that area there. So I'll just take the corner off there. And then also, if it doesn't come right to the bottom, that can be cleaned up there as well. Okay, so and if you get that adjusted right, when you're done, this will just fit in there, and should be a fairly snug fit, so you just have to tap it down and then it'll work. If you wanted, you could put a little epoxy around in there, and then when that's put in there, it'll come out just about right. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do on here is our screws are in this area here, and this will be the outer edge. So you put a mark around there, and then we're going to take it off, and we're going to cut that out, and then we're ready to make our gizmo that goes inside of here to hold it. Okay, this was of course screwed to here as I demonstrated, and you just take the screws out from the back, and of course the back plate comes off, and that can be reused many times. And as you can see, there's those screw holes in there, but I've marked it on the inside where I want my thickness of my jar, and you add a little bit extra on here. Now all I'm going to do is cut that out, and we're ready to mount it onto another chuck that I'm going to make. Oh, okay, wasn't that easy? Anyway, just cut that out, and I left a little extra around the outside, cut on the outside of the line there to give a little thickness, because we're going to want to lay that and finish it up real nice. And of course you have a donut left over. I don't know, can't eat it anyway, but might be able to find some use for it. Okay, we've got our piece all cut out here, and we're ready to do the outside of the lid. But we need to be able to drive it from this side. And of course the most simple thing that you could do, well, sort of simple, is to make what they call a jam chuck. And you can make that to fit where it just fits inside, and then you can turn it there. These have been used by many people for years and years and years. But I wanted a chuck that would expand inside, similar to the when I did the one with the smallmouth mason. So anyway, this is what we're going to make today. And very simply, I've already got one made here. But I'll make another one. I'll make another one for a chuck. So all I did, and you can see how this works here, is I made a ring that fit onto a regular chuck, and then it expanded out. A couple things that I've done here, I've numbered these 1 through 4 as I made them. I've cut the ring into 4 pieces, and I have a rubber band on there that's actually recessed slightly. And then as you turn this, we can just expand that to that fits right inside the jar lid there. You can kind of see how that would work there. And it's a 2-piece thing, you know, so it's not quite as solid as you would if you just had the steel jaws onto your work. But I've used that to make, I believe, this one here, and it worked great. And this was the one I did with the jam chuck. So what you have to do is you take your whatever size of hole that you want your chuck to fit in, and you measure it. So this measures just a little less than 3.5. So you take a piece of wood and draw your circle on, and we're going to cut that out on the bandsaw. And then you take your chuck. Now I'm going to see if I can make one for this chuck here. And you measure that size. Now that's just a little over 2 inches. So we want to make a hole in the center that's for that. And so we'll get it fitted to the inside of the chuck first. Then we'll lay the outside down so it just fits inside this part here. I picked up this end off something, I think it's maple, and it'll probably work well. So I'm going to have to mount this, cut this out, mount this on a faceplate. Since this is fairly thick, you probably could use, it'd be easy to use one of these chucks, and I may use that with the screw on it, or you could just use the faceplate. So I'll get that all set up on the lathe here, and we'll show you how simple it is. Okay, I've mounted it on here. I chose to use the chuck with the little screw in the center there. It was fairly quick and easy there. And then we've cut this out, of course, a little bit bigger than what you need, and it's just a matter of laying it down. And you can do it by trial by error, so that would fit onto there. Okay, I've just done a little section here, or you could do it farther if you got the time there, but I just did a little bit on the end. And then I'm going to lay that down so this will slide right on there with a little bit of clearance. You want it fairly close, but not too much. And then the hole in the center here, I'll do with the Forester bit here, and we'll drill that in also. And then we'll just shape it, shape the inside here so it fits our chuck well, and then we'll finish it up. But anyway, it's very simple here. I'll just go ahead and lay this down so it fits, and then show it to you there, so you don't have to listen to this noisy lathe and be bored. As you've seen, probably if you noticed it, those other jaws were held together with a rubber band. So what you want to do then is choose a rubber band that's just the right size. These came with vegetables or something from the kitchen, so you know, it's not too hard to find rubber bands nowadays when you buy things for food. So I'm just going to cut a little groove so that sets in there, but it sticks up just a little bit. And like right now, if I try to put this on, it won't quite go on. So I want to make a little groove so that just sits down. And so when it's expanded, the rubber band will also provide a friction. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, I made the little groove there, and now when I put this on, I can just stick it on there, and it actually, you can feel the resistance there. So just a slight impression there. You might see that, you might not on the video there. Okay, so now we're going to work on the center here. We remember it was just a little over 2 inch, so I'm going to use a 2-inch Forester bit, and we have to turn our lathe down to a slower speed, and so I'll drill that, and then we'll fit it to the chuck. I just made one cut with the 2-inch Forester bit, and actually when it came right down to it, I thought we'd have to do a little handwork, but if I take that chuck there, that just slides right in there, and so it's basically all done. Okay, that's just a very nice fit there. Now we're just going to cut that donut, make a donut, I guess. Well, we're in the donut business here today, so that looks like about the right width there. It'll stick out just a little bit. Okay, so in a little deeper. Not coming through. Okay, that was easy. All to make that donut thing there. And it fits on here just nicely. So the next thing is to mark where each of the splits are, and we're going to cut it apart. So we can. It's easy to do it this way. You could lay it out, but I find it the best just to leave it right on. Put it on the chuck. You got the little splits for all 4 jaws, and we can do it there. And then it probably doesn't make much difference, but I number them. I put a number 1 and go around clockwise or anti-clockwise, doesn't matter. 2 and 3 and 4. That way you know which, you can put them all in order and it doesn't hurt. And so now we just go ahead and cut those off. And that's a simple. I'll just assemble it back onto the chuck here in order. Got a 1 here, and I'll need a 2. And then I'll put the 4 over here. That fits right on there like that. And then I'll find my rubber band. Not sure what vegetable these things come on. I know broccoli has a wider one. We'll put that in our slot. Just that little slot that we made there. And that's one of the simplest, easiest adapters that you'll make. Okay, so we'll give you a shot there. Got those all numbered, got the rubber band around, and that should fit right onto there, like that. And I'll mount that on the lathe and we'll be ready to start turning the top. Okay, I've mounted it on there, and I learned a couple things here doing this. The first thing, I used the Forester bit and just came right in there, and then the jaws fit right in there. I didn't have to do any shaping. It'd be a better idea to make it just a little bit smaller and then lathe it to fit the inside of your jaws. Some of them will have dovetails on, etc. there, and you'll have to just adjust it for that. But and another thing that I didn't measure the thickness of the jaw where it sticks out there, and I had it the donut a little bit too wide. You might have noticed that on the last when I showed it to you there. So when you tightened it up, the jaws, those wooden jaws, wanted to tip outwards, and it didn't hold it properly. So what I had to do is I cut the jaws down. Fortunately, one of my other chucks held them all from the outside, and I was able to lathe it down to the thickness that the jaws stuck out on this particular chuck here. And then my groove wasn't right for the rubber band, so it came off there, and so I just put it together dry, and so it was solid, and it seems to be quite good. I can lathe on there without any problem. So it actually is successful. It's just some things that you have to watch out for is to make it particular to fit the width and the shape of your jaws on your chuck. But so it doesn't appear loose in any way, and so it's just a matter of making this to the right shape. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this off here. It won't take very long at all because it's just a small project. But once it's set up with those jaws, with the adapter and that thing to make the holes, you can make lots of these, and they go quite well, I would think, for sale. This is basically the shape that I wanted. I domed the top here and brought this down to the size there, left a little space in there. So now I'm just gonna, and it worked really well, that even though those jaws were a lot thinner than the last chuck that I had, it held it super solid, and I could use as much cutting force as I wanted on there. I never had any problem with it loosening or vibrating or anything. So it's actually was, in the end, very successful. Just have to remember that the thickness of your donut's got to be the same as the width of your chuck that sticks out. And it would be better to have so it fits the little dovetail that you have there, however it is. This one is just straight, still worked fantastic. So it's a good little hint and very easy to make, and you can adapt it to any size that you want. So I'll go ahead and sand that, and then I thought I'd show you how I'm going to finish it off with a couple different tools and different things there. Okay, I've got this Sorby spiraling tool, and I'm going to put a little bit of a design on with it there. I'm going to put a little bit here, and I'm going to put some around the outside edge here, and that'll provide a grip when you're gripping it. And then this will maybe look good, and then I'll put some little cuts there, and I'll burn it, and it'll look pretty good quite quickly here. So, and this tool, I just used, put it at a slant. I'm not going to start right at the center. Start in a little bit. And put that there. And then we'll put some on the outside. And that looks not too bad. Now, what I'm going to do here is so that stands out a little bit there. I'll just take the tool and outline it there. And there, that stands out a little bit. Now that I found my parting tool, we'll make on the outside there, I'll define that and define it in there. And I'll put a little ring here. And also I'm going to do it on the outer part here too, even though again, I'll put a little slot there. Okay, now I've turned the lathe speed up. I just have belts on my homemade lathe. Now I want to put a burning. There's two ways you can burn. Of course, one is the wire. Where's the wire? Okay, see the wire there. And but that works basically for outside. So you can wrap it around. And before long you have smoke going. So it doesn't work to do those. So I saw this on one of the YouTube channels. You take a piece of arborite, it's just a piece of broken arborite, and it works quite good. And you can use it on the outside as well. So you find a little corner there, like that. So here's the corner here. Okay. Less speed in the center, so it takes a little bit longer. And that design that we put on there, we don't particularly want to destroy that. So this is another thing. It says take some shavings and just burnish it there. And there we have a completed lid. And of course, since I didn't have the rubber band on, these just fell right off. But you got to make sure that you catch it on there, that it's the same thickness as that. If you don't, they'll spin out. So we'll just set those over to the side there, and we'll have to sand them. And completed project, and using that donut method with that, it just you can expand it to fit any size that you want in there. Okay, so I'll finish this up and we'll have a conclusion. Okay, this is the conclusion of the whole matter. We've got a lid that doesn't look too bad. Makes them tight in here. I had to bang it in. You hit it like that to bang those in. It'll work just fine for storage containers. And of course you can color it too. That makes them look really nice. This one just sprayed some lacquer on it. So, and we talked about the chuck. I like this chuck for these expanding jaws because this distance here is basically straight and it comes out quite a while, comes out a ways, so it makes it quite well. But we made a chuck. We made one of these from scratch. I showed you how to do that, and I made it too thick here, so it stuck over the edge of this here. So when I put into the lid, expanded into the lid, it wanted to tip forward, but I cut that down, and I just used it without the rubber band, and it held it rock solid. No give, no nothing. I could be fairly aggressive with the tool here because I was in a hurry, and it worked quite well too. So you can make one basically for any chuck. You can make it for any size. I wouldn't go too big though. If you go big, well, you could experiment, see what size you want. I'll probably make one, well, I was thinking for this large peanut butter jar, but I really don't have to because I have a chuck that bigger chuck will expand into that. So these are fun to make. They work well. I showed you how to do the ones for the smallmouth mason. Quite often your chucks will work on this one for expanding inside and gripping it from the outside. I've showed you how to mount a bigger one with a faceplate on there, so the screws go on the outside, and that way and then you can hollow out your inside here without your screws, because you're going to be working on two sides of these types of projects. And those principles can be adapted to all kinds of different other things, but hopefully you'll take away something from this and find it interesting, and it may be an aid that you can use to help you in doing various things. But take a shot at some of these jar lids. Your wife will think you're fantastic, and they really make nice storage containers with regular jars that we call them canning jars, but you buy things with all kinds of different products in there that come out quite well, like this peanut butter jar, nice and straight sides. You got it topped nicely. You could color that and use it for storage. Also, you can put things in them and give them to your friends for different occasions. They'll love them too. So thanks for watching, and subscribe. And our next video will probably be with making one of those adjustable boring, I call it a boring tool. So you can adjust it to exactly the size you need, boxes, whatever, and it works fantastic too. Well, I guess this is the postscript of the conclusion. Anyway, I finished off the top, put some color on there, so it looks a little fairly sharp. Anyway, thinking about it, I come up with some more ideas that I'd like to just put on this video here. This, of course, was the prototype, the first one that I made, and that worked extremely well. This was my demo piece that I made a little too wide, and then it wanted to tip off, so I had to cut it down to the size there, and that's important. And then I come up with a new idea. After I discovered when we were making that video that if you drill a 2-inch hole, it fit this chuck, it also fit this chuck, it may fit more chucks anyway. And then I thought, well, why don't I just, I don't know if you can see this here or not, but I used that spiral tool and I put a design all around the outside here, nice and like a rough design. And I thought that would grip, cause extra grip. So if you have one of those, give that a try. And and then I laid the deeper groove for a small rubber band so it fits right in there well below the surface, and it doesn't flip off and pop off. And then it's just super easy just to pop it onto your chuck there. Okay, and then of course remember to keep your pieces there. So if that's what you can do, if you got a 2-inch Forester bit and your chucks are 2 inches, just take a piece of wood, the right thickness, drill a hole through it with the 2-inch, pop it on the thing, expand it, do the outside. The whole thing, you can have it complete, ready to use for to grip something of a larger size and within 5 minutes. So anyway, subscribe. I might come up with something even more fantastic.